Hello and welcome. This is Faceless Opinion, fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. Welcome you back to another video. Let me ask you a question. What is the first thing that comes to mind when I say the words cinematic universe? For most, I would assume that you would say the MCU. I mean, that would make sense since that is considered to be one of the most well-known and highest-grossing movie franchises of all time, even though that is starting to go on a decline in recent years. But I've already gone into detail about that one. However, you want to criticize the MCU, one thing that is apparent, that it did kind of reinvent how we look at and view the concept of a shared universe. If the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the thesis of what a cinematic universe would look like, then the DC Extended Universe, DCEU for short, would be the antithesis, as it has a rather tumultuous run in theaters with only a small handful of movies that you could argue as undeniable hits at the box office. Now, some may think I am coming off as harsh towards the DCEU, but the truth of the matter is that many of its movies have been plagued with horrible and baffling narrative decisions, forgettable entries that shouldn't have existed, and IRL controversies that hang around the franchise like an albatross around its neck. Though, to understand how the DCEU ever got to this point, we need to take a closer look at it from the beginning.
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop!
Our very first DCEU movie to come out would be Man of Steel in 2013, which starred Henry Cavill as the Big Blue Boy Scout. Personally, I didn't really care for it, mainly due to the fact that I am not a huge fan of Superman, but that is a topic for another time. When it comes to how the film was received, the response was mixed. Some liked it while others didn't. The big reason for why Man of Steel was not, I don't want to say popular because I don't believe that is the right term for it, but the thing that would probably hurt this movie would have been the darker tones that director Zack Snyder went with in this film, as it felt rather bleak, as well as the infamous neck snap scene, which is still a matter of debate even today. Now, I don't believe that Man of Steel was a bad movie, but it didn't really set the world on fire either. For the DCEU's first step, it was not a strong one, but for its second step, the best way to describe that would be, well, that it was taking its second step and ended up sticking its foot in a gopher hole and broke its ankle. The next movie to come out would be the Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. I cannot emphasize this enough. I hate this movie. This is not a good movie, not in any sense. Where do I begin with its faults? It felt more like a Batman movie, if anything, with the only thing Superman doing was having a fun time with Lois Lane. Though I will say that when it comes to Ben Affleck being cast as Batman, I actually didn't have a problem with that one, unlike others. Quite the opposite. I thought he suited the role well, unlike another person, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Now that was a major character assassination right there, though what they did with Batman giving him guns and having him kill people wasn't a good thing either. How about all the pointless dream sequences, or them teasing Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg, which really didn't need to happen? Wonder Woman literally did nothing of note in this movie. Why was she even here to begin with? Can't forget about the Martha scene. How could you forget that one? Though the biggest issue of all would be that they killed Superman. Let that sink in. They killed Superman. You know, one of the big three heroes of DC in their second movie. I'm going to say it one more time. They killed Superman in the second movie. Dawn of Justice was the kiss of death for the DCEU. Is it hyperbolic? Sure, but it's the truth. Next up is Suicide Squad, the 2016 version, not the 2021 version. Why is this a thing? As much as I dislike Dawn of Justice, I would rather watch that one than this one. This movie's just stupid. The reason for their existence was to combat the next Superman-esque figure. Yeah, no one on that team has any chance trying to beat someone of the level of Supes. I mean, if they were established to be a special ops team who go on missions that are deemed risque or questionable, that would make sense, but nope. Besides, the movie is not memorable. Like, the only thing I recall from this is that this is the movie that gave us Jared Leto Joker, something I wish I could forget. All jokes aside, the only people I remember are Deadshot and Harley Quinn, and that's about it. Like, does anyone remember Katana or any of the Suicide Squad members? I feel like a movie like this would have worked better if it was made further down the road so that they could put in villains that we have seen in other movies show up instead of having to build up a team of misfits from scratch. Like, that would make more sense, but let's not forget they killed Superman the second movie. After that comes Wonder Woman. I like Wonder Woman. This right here is what I consider to be the DCEU's best movie, and it is the first one that you can definitively say that was successful compared to the movies that came out before it. Did this mark a change of fortune for the DCEU? Were things going to finally go upward for them? No, because the next movie to come out was... oh dear.
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop!
Whatever good momentum was accumulated with Wonder Woman, Justice League yeeted that out the window, right into the dumpster. Now I can stand here and do a speed run of every issue that this movie had, like I did with Dawn of Justice, however I'm not going to, as the story involving the Justice League movie is quite interesting, and I believe it is important to know how it changed the direction of the DCEU. Zack Snyder was originally set to direct this movie, as this was going to be continuing off of the other DCEU movies he had big parts in, which were Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice, though tragedy would strike as Snyder's daughter would end up passing away, leading to him stepping down from his directorial role. As a result, Warner Brothers would end up hiring Joss Whedon to take Snyder's place, which from their eyes made sense, as Whedon has directed the first Avengers movie and Avengers Age of Ultron, meaning that he has experience when it comes to ensemble movies such as Justice League. However, when Whedon took the reins, it led to massive changes to the project, as there would be a large amount of reshoots which the studio executives essentially wanted the film not only redone, they also wanted it to be shorter and to have a lighter tone compared to what Snyder originally had intended. But it needed to maintain its intended release date, which was only a few months away at that point. Which is why the film not only looks incredibly choppy and tonally is a big fat mess as it tried to maintain the darker aesthetics of Snyder's other movies, but has a degree of campiness and humor that you would see in your run-of-the-mill MCU film. Don't get me started to the CGI, particularly when it comes to Henry Cavill's face, since at the time he was filming for Mission Impossible Fallout and was rocking a mustache at the time. And since he was under a contract, he was not allowed to shave, leading to that face. Yikes. When it came out, the reception to it was not good, and financially was a disaster. Hell, years later, Ray Fisher, the actor who played Cyborg, made some allegations against Joss Whedon, saying that he was unprofessional and had inappropriate behavior towards the cast, something that Jason Momoa, who played Aquaman, and Gal Gadot, who played Wonder Woman, came out in agreement with Fisher. As a result, Whedon's career has kinda gone into the toilet since then. However, after the release of the theatrical version of Justice League, or as some people dubbed it, Justice League, there have been an online campaign to make Warner Brothers release Zack Snyder's version of the movie in a movement called #Release the Snyder Cut. And in 2021, their pleas have been answered, as the Snyder Cut was released on HBO Max. All 4 hours of it. As much as I don't care for some of the work Snyder has done in the DCEU, I will say good on him for getting to release the movie he originally wanted to, and for all the fans who really pushed and wanted to see it. Will I ever watch it? No. Mainly because it is 4 hours, and I don't have HBO Max. But with its release, it doesn't truly change anything. The Snyder Cut is considered non-canon, and has no relevance to the other movies that came out after the theatrical version of it. While I am content for the people who have been wanting for Warner Bros. To #release the Snyder Cut, in the grand scheme of things, nothing has or will come out of this. Which is a shame, since it did better than the Whedon version of it.
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop!
Ever since Justice League, the DCEU has released 6 more movies throughout the years, with some doing rather well while others not so much. Of these movies, the ones I would argue that did the best would be Aquaman, as this was the first and only DC movie to make $1 billion. Others that did seemingly well would be Shazam, as I have never seen anyone say anything negative about this one and was received rather positively. And another success I would say is The Suicide Squad, not to be mistaken with the first one that came out. This one was significantly better than its predecessor, though that wasn't very hard since the bar was low to begin with. But hey, a win is a win. Besides, this movie was able to get a spin-off made from it called Peacemaker, in which the title character is played by none other than...
And his name is John Cena!
So yes, I would say that these were the only good movies of the bunch, while the other half were just plain terrible. Starting off with Harley Quinn the movie. No wait, I'm sorry, that's not right. That's not the name. The name is actually Birds of Prey, and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Honestly, they should have probably called it Harley Quinn the movie, because this is more of her movie than it is a Birds of Prey one. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I do not like Harley Quinn. No, wait, let me rephrase that. I do like Harley Quinn, the original version of her.
Aw, come on, Puddin'. Don't you want to rev up your Harley? Vroom, vroom.
What I don't like is this modern reimagining of her where she's some trashy, crude, annoying, pansexual clown girl who's pushed down our throats incessantly. I didn't like her in the OG Squad movie, and I sure as hell ain't gonna like her in this one. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Wonder Woman 1984, not as bad as Birds of Prey, but not by much. This movie was also terrible too. Now some may say, hey, the only reason Wonder Woman 1984 did so poorly was because it was released during the pandemic. That is true. The pandemic really did hurt a fair share of movies at the box office, which led to some not great business decisions, such as giving it a dual release for theaters and streaming on HBO Max at the same time, which led to it being a financial failure. However, I don't think it would have done well regardless of if it was during the pandemic or not. Case in point, the newer Squad movie, that also came out during the pandemic as well, and they made roughly the same amount of money. However, a lot of people genuinely liked the second Squad movie over the second Wonder Woman movie, which is why I consider that one to be more successful, while 1984 isn't. And we get to our most recent entry, Black Adam. Why does this movie exist? I feel like this is one of the more useless and unnecessary of all the DCEU movies, and that is saying something, since Birds of Prey is on this list. But it is true though, I feel like someone like Black Adam shouldn't have gotten his own movie, as I myself and all of you watching can think of a decent number of characters that either A, deserve to have their own solo movie before Black Adam did, or B, have another attempt at a solo movie since their first one was not great. This movie came out like 3-4 months ago, and I completely forgot this thing was real. We really didn't need a Black Adam movie. Honestly, you should have had him make his debut in the new Shazam movie, and if people liked him, you could have given him a movie. But wait, this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. The same people who said, yeah, let's kill Superman in the second movie. I forgot. Common sense doesn't exist in their world. And yes, I'm still hung up on that.
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop!
We took a look at all the movies the DCEU has released in its near 10 years of existence. All I have to say is that it has been a chaotic run, though the chaos does not really stop here, as there have been plenty of interesting things taking place that will have some type of impact when it comes to the near future and how certain movies may perform. For example, how a few months ago that there were plans to release a movie called BATGIRL. However, Warner Bros., whom at the time had a merger with Discovery, leading to them becoming Warner Bros. Discovery, decided that they were no longer going to release this film, stating that it simply did not work. Given the rumors on how the test screening went for it, maybe they decided not to release this movie at all might be a good thing. But it does make you wonder, what was so bad about Batgirl that made the higher-ups decide that they were better writing it off than releasing it in either theaters or HBO Max? Another thing that makes you wonder is what is going on with both Aquaman the Lost Kingdom and The Flash, both of which released this year. The reason why I mention them is due to the fact that both of these movies have certain people that the public might not have a positive view towards. In the case of Aquaman, that goes to the actress who plays Mera. Not saying her name since the YouTube overlords don't like people mentioning her in a bad light, even though she deserves the bad publicity. Anyhow, Mera, as you know, was involved in a high-profile trial in 2022 involving her ex-husband, Captain Jack Sparrow, codenames YouTube's a Pain, which came about when Mera accused Jack Sparrow of doing some pretty bad stuff to her, which in turn got him blacklisted in Hollywood and costed him some movie roles, notably the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie and the third Fantastic Beasts movie. Jack Sparrow would end up taking his ex-wife to court in both the US and UK for defamation, and during both of these trials, it would come to light that Mera not only lied about her allegations of him doing bad things, but she was the one who did them to him. meaning he was the victim and she was the bad guy in this. Now, what does this have to do with Aquaman 2? Everything, as this trial proved how much of a horrible person she is. So much so that there is a petition wanting her removed from the movie with over 4.5 million signatures. That is no small amount. Granted, some may make the argument that these are just trolls or bots trying to boost the numbers. You know what? I'll play along. Let's pretend that 3 out of 4 people who signed this are bots. Guess what? That is still 1 million people who will not watch this movie if she is still in it. And that is the lowball number. That's not taking into account if these people have families and decide, I'm not taking my kids to see this. Or maybe word of mouth where someone says, hey, don't watch this movie. Things like that may be small, but that is going to hurt the coin purse in the long run. I'm telling you, if they do not cut ties with her when it is time to release and do promotional stuff for it later in the year, it is going to be a PR nightmare. Yes, there are reports saying that screen time is cut and that there are some delays, but the thing is, people want her gone. If she is in the movie for so much as 10 seconds, it is going to end badly. And the fact that Warner Bros. Has not made a definitive statement in this matter is noteworthy. Flash, also set to release this year, also has an actor with some controversy surrounding their name. The only difference being is that it is the main lead that is the source of it. Ezra, where do I begin with you? This one has ranked up quite the criminal record. I made a cringy meme video a few months ago that detailed some of Ezra's crimes, but it has only gotten worse since then. I can't go into detail about every single crime Ezra has done since it would add another 20 minutes to the video and the YouTube overlords might not be too happy. All I will say is type in Ezra's name in Google and see what you find. Now, with all this negative press surrounding the Flash movie, it kind of puts the higher-ups at WB in a tough spot, since the Flash was allegedly going to serve as a sort of reboot for the DCEU. But with all that's going on, it kind of throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing. What are they going to do with this movie? The way I see it, they have 3 options. 1, release the movie in theaters and cross their fingers that it doesn't flop. 2, put it on HBO Max and see if they can reclaim some money for it. Or 3, cancel it like they did with BATGIRL. Yeah, they have a big mess with this movie, but despite all of this, WB is going to keep Ezra as the Flash. Let that sink in. They are willing to keep Ezra, who at this point is a public menace, but they decide to let go of Henry Cavill and not have him be Superman anymore, even though everyone loves him in the role. Then what was the point in having him show up in Black Adam for a post-credit scene if you were going to get rid of him a few months later? Oh my god, what? What? My head hurts. I'm gonna lie down. I'll be back. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop!
After taking a look at the entirety of the DCEU, all I really have to say watching its journey from the beginning to now, you can make the argument that it was doomed to fail from the start. I'm convinced that the DC Extended Universe was a knee-jerk reaction to the massive success that the MCU was having. Timeline-wise, it would make sense, since the first Avengers movie came out in 2012 to massive success, and only a year later Man of Steel would then come out. WB wanted to dip their toe into the proverbial pool, which was superhero movies. Though instead of cannonballing into a pool of money like Scrooge McDuck, they ended up belly flopping. If I had to pinpoint the issues for their shortcomings, I would say that bad writing, a lot of studio interference, IRL controversies, horrible decision making, and probably the biggest problem would be over-eagerness. They tried to go very ambitious from the start, which you can see in Dawn of Justice, with them teasing other people who wouldn't end up having their own solo films until after Justice League, while some still don't even have a movie today. They jumped the gun way too soon on that. And when they got there, and it wasn't good as they thought it was going to, what happened next? Just autopilot. I feel like there was no plan for what was going to happen next. Zack Snyder more than likely had an idea of where he was going to go, but this late in the game, it's a moot point. I feel like they're better off just restarting the DCEU from scratch, and from a lot of the things I've seen, that is becoming more and more likely. Which they should, and if they do, maybe they should take a page from the DC animated universe. But only time will tell what ends up happening with the DCEU. Anyhow, I rambled long enough. Now tell me, what do you think? Do you like the DCEU? Do you think that can redeem itself, or it should get rebooted? Who is the more horrible person, Mara or Ezra? Tell me in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, I will catch you all on the flip side.